Blog Talk Radio.
Good evening, ladies and gents. It's Ghost here with another edition of True Conservative Republican Radio. Once again, I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in with us this evening. Whether you're on the right or left of the persuasion, we definitely appreciate your patronage. We're getting great numbers, folks. Absolutely great numbers, unbelievable, and I'd just like to thank you all for that. This evening, what we have on the agenda, we plan on discussing a little bit about the potential privatization of education and how public education has just been an absolute failure, and it's disgusting to anybody who has any kind of cognitive reasoning in their head. But before we get to that, I wanted to discuss something that took place before the Republican debates yesterday evening. Now, what I saw before the debates, it was on MSNBC. They had a couple of people to chime in on their, particular opinions on what was going to happen, what isn't going to happen, that sort of thing. A person they had was a true conservative Republican. A man who had conservative principles. A man who wanted to chime in his official opinion on what was happening in the Republican Party. And that man, ladies and gentlemen, was none other than the true conservative man, Tom DeLay. That's right, Tom DeLay, a true conservative Republican, a man who really obliges himself to the conservative movement, a man who understands the conservative movement. They invited Tom DeLay pre-Republican debates yesterday evening on MSNBC to give his insight on what he thought was going to happen, what he thought wasn't going to happen. And, I thought it was very interesting. I found that Tom DeLay, the only conservative that has the testicular fortitude to get on a national media and suggest that the Republican Party is being separated. It's being sliced in half. I mean, Tom DeLay got on MSNBC yesterday, pre-Republican debates, and suggested that, you know what? The Republican pundits that we have, the Republican candidates that we have, are splitting the Republican Party. I mean, Tom DeLay got up there and suggested that McCain ruined the Republican Party with his more bureaucracy, more regulation, and that sort of thing. You also have Romney, who's an unapologetic social liberal. You've got Giuliani, another unapologetic social liberal. And Tom DeLay, this was before the debates, folks. He got up on there and he said, you know what? The conservative movement is being isolated. There is a rift in the Republican Party. And I'm glad to hear a man with political credibility acknowledge this. You see, because I've been acknowledging this ever since I basically started off this program. I've been saying that all these people that are running for president are social liberals. These people are, the Republican Party has been hijacked by a whole bunch of social liberals, and nobody wants to talk about it. Now, not only am I getting, hate mail and all kinds of four-letter words and logical fallacies from people of the left, I'm also getting logical fallacies and fingers pointed from people from the right. You want to know why? Because they're social liberals. And Tom DeLay suggested that. Tom DeLay has finally put it on the table. I've been saying this ever since I started this program, folks. I've been saying it ever since I started this program, that the Republican Party has been hijacked by a whole bunch of social liberals, and nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody that calls themselves conservative or Republican want to talk about it. All they want to do is just, play with their pecker shafts and just think that it's not even a problem. They don't even want to acknowledge the damn issue. Anyway, I'm glad Tom DeLay yesterday, before the Republican debates, acknowledged this problem. The conservative movement has been isolated from the Republican Party, and Tom DeLay, a true conservative, put forth this notion that I've been putting forth ever since I started this program. And I'm glad that, somebody's acknowledging it, because I'm telling you, the Republican Party has been hijacked by a bunch of social liberals, and it makes me want to puke up. I'm telling you that right now. It's making me want to puke up. I'm getting hate mail not only from left-wing, long-haired, liberal, bedwetting hippies. I'm getting hate mail from so-called Republicans. I mean, these are people that were supposed to be my own kind here, because I am a conservative. I'm a conservative. I use the conservative ideology for my own principles, for my own values. And here I got a bunch of social liberals out here on the Republican Party that have hijacked not only the Republican Party in the presidential nomination, just take a look at the blogosphere. Take a look at these so-called shows on BTR, these nimrods that are calling themselves conservatives. They are blatant social liberals. And if there's any conservative, anybody with a conservative name, anybody with a conservative label, anybody trying to call themselves conservatives, if any of them are supporting any of the candidates for president, they are not a conservative. They are social liberal that have hijacked the Republican Party. And let me tell you, I've suggested this to every conservative out there. I have a lot of conservative people. I get great numbers. And I thank all you conservative people that listen to me faithfully on a variety of locations, because this broadcast feed is on a variety of different locations on the internet. And I'm really thankful for those people hosting my feed. I'm really thankful for the people that are listening to me, the conservative Americans of America, that acknowledge the fact that the Republican Party has been hijacked by a bunch of social liberals. And I'm glad that Tom DeLay, yesterday before the Republican debates, I'm glad he acknowledged that as well. Anyway, I'm sorry y'all had to hear that, folks. It's just that, oh man, I've been getting hate mail. I mean, look, I don't mind hate mail from liberals, okay? I really don't mind that. I mean, it's humorous to me, because I know that these liberals have no substance. I mean, they're just fed propaganda. They don't know any better. But when I hear Republicans and people that try to call themselves conservatives trying to write me hate mail, well, that really just, makes the plasma in my stomach bubble up to the point where it's churning up into my esophagus and making me want to puke up, boy. It's making me want to puke up. Anyway, folks, anybody on BTR, the blogosphere, anything, if anybody that tries to call themselves a conservative, anywhere, if they're trying to call themselves a conservative and they're behind any of these Republican candidates, they are not a conservative. They're a social liberal, and that's all there is to it. And I am suggesting to all the conservative contingent that listens to my program, and I thank you for your patronage, I'm just suggesting to you, if you're a real conservative American, don't vote. Just stay home. Take care of your families on voting day, because none of these people have the conservative principles in their ideology. And I guarantee it. If you don't believe me, just look at their damn names. Look at what they stand for. They are not conservative. All these people are social liberals, unapologetic social liberals, blatant social liberals. Don't go to the voting booth. I'm not. I'm staying home, and I suggest anybody who's conservative do it too. And I think what we need to do is the conservative movement, we need to reorganize ourselves. We need to understand that we have major obstacles ahead of us here in the future. We have a Republican Party that has been invaded by a bunch of social liberals. We've got liberals out here that are basically subjugating themselves. They're dividing the country, and we need to get down to the basic conservative principles. And we need to organize ourselves under that nature, and we need to start from the grassroots level up. I mean, starting with your local city councilman or parish or whatever your local locality is, whatever your local politics are. Elect nothing but conservatives, acknowledged conservatives, provable conservatives. Same with the regional and state. We need to get back to conservative principles, folks, because the Republican Party, to me, has been hijacked by a bunch of social liberals that wouldn't mind seeing oral copulation between two men happening in front of an elementary school, because that doesn't concern them anymore. That doesn't concern them anymore. None of these Republican candidates could give a rat's ass, and I'm glad that Tom DeLay, a true conservative Republican, acknowledged this yesterday on MSNBC before the Republican debates. Anyway, folks, our current show today is about education. Public education, where it's going, what it's done, and that sort of thing. We're going to get to that in about a couple of minutes, folks. I know there's a lot of people out here that have a lot of different viewpoints on the way education should be, what should be done about it, and that sort of thing. But the bottom line is, in my view, is we need to get a hold of what's going on in the Republican Party. I just have a lot of Republicans. I have a lot of conservatives that listen in, and I appreciate it. And we need to understand, folks, that the Republican Party has been hijacked by social liberals. And just don't believe me. I mean, look up Tom DeLay. He's talking about it. Look up the true conservatives. They're talking about it. And if you don't believe me even after that, why don't you go look at all these supposed people that try to call themselves conservatives, people that try to call themselves Republicans, and look at how many of them are nothing but a bunch of bedwetting social liberals. Take a look at them. The Republican Party has been hijacked by social liberalism, and I'm glad that somebody in a public forum is finally talking about this, because I've been talking about it ever since I started the show. Anyway, 646-652-4869 is the number to call. Give me a call. We're going to be talking about education here in a second, but I just want everybody out there to know, if you're a true conservative, don't vote for any of these people. Just stay home. It's not even worth going out into the voting booth anymore. What are you going to have, a liberal and a liberal to choose from? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And you want to talk about McCain? All you people that think McCain is some sort of a conservative, that man is an unapologetic liberal, all right? That McCain-Feingold bill that he passed is against the Constitution. It's completely unconstitutional. This man is for more regulation. This man is for more government. You know, this man is talking about how he wants to make the Bush tax cuts permanent, and yet he voted against the Bush tax cuts. What a piece of trash. That's what that is, a piece of trash. Kind of a flip-flopping, not knowing what to do, not knowing how to make up your own mind, piece of trash. So if you think McCain's the big, great savior, you got another thing coming, and I suggest to all true conservative folks to stay home. Anyway, folks, I know I'm getting a little hot-headed here, and that's only because I'm sick. I'm sick to my stomach that the that the Republican Party is being hijacked by a bunch of social liberals, and I spit on everybody who's being basically nominated for president in today's Republican Party. They isolated a true conservative Republican like Duncan Hunter, and that was purposeful, folks. It's obvious that the Republican Party has isolated the conservative movement. They didn't even give Duncan Hunter the opportunity, the chance. They shut him out of debates. They didn't even acknowledge any of his policies. It's ridiculous. And here I got ReadyWorks, you know, avid Ron Paul supporter. He comes in here every Friday telling me, you know, I'm in the chat room, folks. You can get to the chat room at blogtalkradio.com/ghost, telling me to vote for Ron Paul. Look, Ron Paul is an isolationist, and I don't believe in isolationism. He wants to tuck tail and leave everywhere, all across the international community, and that is a national security blunder worse than what Barack Hussein Obama is suggesting, which is open up a dialogue with a country that's responsible for 75% of the world's terror, and that's Iran. So I hate Ron Paul. I think he's a disgusting, despicable, old, prostate-infected windbag that, you know, to be honest with you, I'm not totally against him now, because I actually want him to hurt the Republican Party now, because the Republican Party is nothing but a bunch of social liberals, all right? That's all they are. It's nothing but a bunch of pathetic social liberals. And, you know, I'm glad Ron Paul yesterday suggested in the Republican debates that he may, like I've been saying on this program since the beginning, that just goes to show you my political insight, folks. I'm not just saying this out of my ass. All right? I have actually substance to what I'm doing here. All right? I've been saying ever since I started this program that Ron Paul was going to branch off of the Republican Party once they don't allow him to be the candidate. He's going to branch off, and he's going to use all the money he generated to run as a libertarian candidate. And he's going to siphon votes away from the Republicans. And I've said it, and I'm going to continue to say it. I've said it time and time again, and let me tell you, you can go back into my archives and you can hear me saying it. And finally, Ron Paul is acknowledging his whole agenda. He acknowledged it last night, and he said that he's going to do it. So I told all of you so. All you social liberal conservatives that, oh, you don't know what you're talking about, Ghost. You don't know what you're talking about. All you bloggers, all you idiots that think you're such great political insiders and, political prognosticators, you people don't know your asses from your elbow. And that's the bottom line. Anyway, folks. So I'm sorry. I know that, I got a couple of calls in last couple of shows saying, you know what, Ghost, you just sound angry. You sound angry, Ghost. Of course I'm angry. Of course I'm angry. I'm a conservative Republican. I mean, the Republican Party's been just completely hijacked by a bunch of social liberals, and what am I supposed to do? Just sit here and acknowledge whatever candidate they shove in my face? I'm an individual conservative. I'm not going to go along with whatever the party says just because they think it's the best thing to do. I'm not going to do it. I'm a conservative. I'm a conservative first and foremost, and I am not going to, be in contradiction with my principles because the Republican Party says it's all right to do so. I'm not going to do it. So I'm staying home on Election Day, and I suggest to do the same, all you conservatives out there, because we have no choice. We have no choice. And you know what? I thank God that Tom DeLay finally acknowledged this problem. He acknowledged that the Republican Party is being split. And I thank Tom DeLay for having the galls to say it. I really do. Anyway, before we get into the education debate, we got a caller here. I'm assuming it's ReadyWorks. He may have some Ron Paul propaganda, so I'll let him spew it for a little bit. Hey, ReadyWorks, is that you? No, hold on, you're not on the air yet. And of course, this switchboard never works for crap. ReadyWorks, you there?
Hello.
Hey, how you doing, ReadyWorks?
I'm all right. Question. If
Yeah.
you're worried about Ron Paul being a spoiler, but you hate the entire Republican Party.
Well, I just stipulated that, ReadyWorks. I kind of hope he's a spoiler at this point. I mean, to be honest with you, I'm disgusted with the Republican Party. I get hate mail on a consistent basis from supposed conservatives because I'm acknowledging this problem, and I thank God that Tom DeLay finally acknowledged the problem here in the Republican Party. The Republican Party's been hijacked by a bunch of social liberals, and Tom DeLay said it, and I've been saying it ever since this show began. So, I mean, do I agree that Ron Paul should be given the platform in the Republican Party to spew off his borderline liberal propaganda? No, I don't agree with that. But now am I glad that he may spoil the chances of a social liberal in the Republican cloak? I wouldn't say I'm completely happy about it, but I'm somewhat amused. Yes, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, well, here's the fine line. It's a slippery slope, and it's really not anything you said. But if you say, and it's true, which I believe there's only one party anyway, I think that the minutia point most of the time for overall change between the party system. But I mean, if this is true, that the quote-unquote neocon agenda has hijacked the Republican Party, what would give you any semblance that there would ever be a change?
Well, because the conservative movement is still alive, ReadyWorks. Well, go ahead.
But how so? Are you talking about publicly, like socially it's alive, like individually?
No, I think we're alive as far as the social movement is concerned. I think that we've been completely shut out by the Republican Party, and I've been tempted many times to take the Republican out of this show's name. Because it's no longer the Republican Party anymore. I mean, it's a blatant.
Okay. See, what I used to call in for is because you used conservative, and that's why I started calling in, and I was always like, hey, man, why would you call this conservative? It's crazy. It's madness. That's what grabbed my interest in the first place, is that you touted the beliefs of the candidates that were Republican, and that's why I started calling in, and I'm like, conservative.
Well, because the Republican Party at one point was conservative. I mean, the root of the Republican Party, the base of the Republican Party was a conservative movement.
But we got established that when that was. Are you talking about like the Goldwater days? Are you talking about the Reagan era? Because you're really going to have to establish that.
No, I mean, you know, when the conservative movement in the 90s, I think we dominated the House and Senate for a good portion of time. We had some pretty good bills initiated. I mean, we actually had some substance when it came to our moral character. And now all we've done, I'm not going to even say we. Now what the Republicans have done, because I know that the conservatives in America still have principles. But what the Republicans have done have just completely submitted to the social liberalism of what we're seeing today. I mean, look at the candidates that we have to choose from. Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney is an unapologetic social liberal, man. He's for abortion. He's for stem cell research. I mean, he wants to provide more government to put more entitlement programs in people's hands. You got John McCain. He's trying to tout that he's Mr., Maverick, and that he's going to go out and kick ass and take names in the international community, but he's a liberal. He's done more to regulate the country. This McCain-Feingold bill is one of the most anti-constitutionalist bills ever passed. It's ridiculous, man. And this is what they're trying to sell to us as the conservative movement? I don't think so. That's why I'm staying home, ReadyWorks. I'm staying home on Election Day. I'm not going to go out. I'm not going to vote for any of these people. And I know that you're going to vote for Ron Paul. Would you still vote for Ron Paul if he was a libertarian?
Yeah.
So if they were to allow him on like a third-party ticket.
Here's the thing is, a third party is so ineffective that it would be a mute vote or a moot vote because I wouldn't want either of the other side. They call it a spoiler, but it really isn't. I mean, not really, because it wouldn't be. I'm an independent. It wouldn't be me taking away from a party agenda.
Well, I mean, with all due respect, you will be siphoning votes from the Republic. Well, actually, Ron Paul would. Because look, Ron Paul, I will acknowledge that his.
Well, wait a second, sir. That would be under the stipulation that I was going to vote Republican, and then he siphoned my vote.
Well, that's not you. I mean, obviously you're an independent. I'm just saying in general, he's going to siphon votes away from the Republicans because.
Why is it? But you never speak of the Democrats that will be siphoned also.
I don't think the Democrats are going to be siphoned, ReadyWorks. I mean, the Democrats, they just want more government. Now, you see, let me explain why Ron Paul is going to siphon more Republicans, because his rhetoric, as far as domestically, it's pure conservatism, conservative Republican ideology of the old days. But his foreign policy is completely ridiculous. And what he wants to do, with the economy is also unreal. I mean, it looks great on paper, but it's economic romanticism.
Sir, what we have, what is scheduled, what will eventually happen is unreal. We've been playing with unreal for so long. That's going to be our downfall, and I don't want to waste your time going through all the numbers again. I know we'll just spin round and round.
Okay.
We simply cannot spend fake money again. We can't. For instance, we're in $8 trillion, and theoretically we're actually in $56 trillion in the hole. We can't double that. It can't. It's not feasible.
Hey, look, I understand that, but Ron Paul, with all due respect, has basically stipulated that what we need to do is just shut down all the military hardware, all the military assets that are in the international community. That's what he said.
No, we are such a military installation. If we keep what we have and just keep it updated, I mean, sir, we've been prepared to have the biggest war you could even imagine for so many years. I mean, this isn't Ron Paul talking. This is like Eisenhower talking about the military installation. That's what we've become. I mean, we are basically, kind of hired thugs, and we need that to eat up our debt. I mean, this is no longer the home of the brave and the free. This is, listen, what do you have as far as assets? We'll come in and we'll beat up the bad guys if, you can eat up some of our debt. We're socially and economically irresponsible. I mean, we have to acknowledge that at some point. It will hurt us.
Okay. Yeah, well, look, there's some points
from what you're saying I agree with, but how to remedy it I disagree with you on.
And I agree, but listen, I do not think, and I'm not saying he's the godsend. I'm saying that at least I think that he's going to give you a shot. It's going to be hard times, but either way, it's going to be hard. Here's what I'm saying. It's going to be hard times with a possible bright future down the road, or it's going to be hard times with an economic disaster. It's not a thin line. It's not like, well, maybe one will work, maybe one won't. We can't keep spending. It just can't happen.
And I'll agree to that we can't keep spending, but we have to, figure out in the balance of our entitlement programs and, the problem we have with Social Security and the problem that we're having with there's just so many problems that the fat needs to be cut, that we could sit here and debate all night long what it should be. You believe, if you're for Ron Paul, you believe that we just need to take everything out of the international community as far as military hardware and assets are concerned, and basically bring them back here, so we can just stop paying for military assets abroad, and that will curb spending to the point where we can solve our debt. At the same time, Ron Paul also suggests that we should do something completely radical with our monetary system, which will also put us in even a worse situation than you're suggesting, have we continue on with the charade of fiat money, so to speak.
Well, okay, but and I understand that. And here's the thing: there's got to be a middle ground. I understand that, for one, no one who gets in office is going to pass all their ideologies. It's not going to happen. Two, when you say fiat money facetiously, well, the jig's up. Everyone knows it's fake money. We've always known it's fake money, and we're now scrambling to jumpstart our economy. It's not going to work. All right, this isn't the beginning of a new economy trying to jumpstart it with $800, $150 billion jumpstart.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm not very happy with Bush with this economic stimulus package. I just wanted to go ahead and state that.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Opening up the Fed window and dropping rates isn't going to jumpstart it. It's bigger than all of us. We actually have to restructure something somewhere soon. This can't go on. If you even have a cursory, if you have observational skills that are just random in basic mathematics and just some economics, you'll know this is it's a dirty game. We're about to lose. We already dealt ourselves a bad hand. We have to now fix it.
I see.
I mean, we're vulnerable. Our chin is...
don't get me wrong. You're preaching to the choir here, my friend. It's just we're differing on how to get there.
Well, my point is, I don't see any of the candidates that propose anything different. My point is, I'm here... The only reason I'm for Ron Paul, it's obviously I like the Constitution. I kind of miss that kind of thing. Two, at least he's going to try. As where everyone else is saying, well, there's a black hole, full speed ahead. And I can't see that working out real well for us. I mean, I see the Amero, I see the North American Union, I see all these silly things that could never happen. You could basically draw them up, and you really 6 degrees of separation isn't that far. And then sovereignty and everything else.
Well, like I stated, we can agree to the fact that we need to cut spending and need to bring back the integrity of the currency and that sort of thing. But like I stipulated, I just cannot oblige myself with Ron Paul's ideology of the problem. I just can't do it. I'm a student of economics. I'm a student of politics. There's empirical history that goes against what he's saying, man. And that's the only reason. Well, no, I was just going to say that's the only reason why I can't get on board with what he's talking about.
I don't understand how you can say, from a historical perspective, and, I do not think that we were ever supposed to govern the world.
No, but, we never anticipated that we'd be the sole superpower. And now that we're the sole superpower, we'd like to remain that, for a good portion of time.
For one thing, we got to take that off the table. We know that can't exist. We know we're not going to be the only one forever. We already know the math. We know that we're in trouble now. So forever is forever away. That can't happen. We know it.
All right. Well, hey, Ready Works, tell you what, I'm going to get started on this education topic, man. I've already spent about 30 minutes on this this other issue. But I thank you for calling in, and if you have something to say about education, man, call in. I'm more than encourage you to do so.
All right, Ghost. I might be back. You take care.
All right, thanks, ReadyWorks. Anyway, we got off on a little bit of a different debate. You know, like I stated, I was talking a little bit about the conservative movement, how it's being isolated in today's Republican Party, and you know, we got kind of skewed into a Ron Paul debate and that sort of thing. So anyway, I want to put things back on track here. What we were going to talk about is we're going to talk about the public education system and how it's failed America and our youth. And why I feel the best thing to do with it is to privatize education. So we're going to go ahead and segue into that. So all of you folks that are listening in, I'd like for you to chime in. If you do have an opinion on anything I say, the number is 646-652-4869 is the number to call. I hate to keep bringing back up, the debate I just had here with ReadyWorks, but he talked about we got to cut spending, And I agree to that. I mean, we have to cut spending. And I think the first place we need to cut spending is cutting the fat out of America. And one big chunk of lard, one big chunk of just tubber lard is hanging off of the love handle of America, and that's public education. It's public education, folks. I mean, this is what's ruining America. All right? I mean, look at the average product that our public education system is producing out here. You've got kids that legitimately think once they graduate from high school, if you ask these children, something about World War II, they're going to say, well, yeah, I know about World War II. The United States found out, that we fought on the side of the Nazis against the communists in World War II. I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, this is the product that we're producing out here. We're producing a bunch of Nimrods, a bunch of morons, all right? And why is it that we keep putting more and more money? You hear these ridiculous administrators and these ridiculous teachers. And let me tell you something. If you're a teacher in the public education system, screw you, okay? I'm sick and tired of hearing all these teachers piss and moan. Oh, you don't know what it's like to be a teacher. I don't care about being a teacher. You want to know why? Because you ain't doing jack. You're not doing nothing to perpetuate intellectual curiosity. All you're doing is strong-arming the government with your little teachers union, all right? You're strong-arming the government into giving you more and more taxpayer dollars. That's what you teachers like to do. You like to pull on the American sympathy strings to extort more money out of the government. You should be ashamed of yourselves. Public teachers, give me a break. I'm sick and tired of hearing all these public teachers, oh, I got a hard job. You've got nothing. You've got absolutely nothing. You know what you got? You got yourself a $50,000 job just to basically watch a few brats for about 8 hours a day. You're babysitters. $50,000 a year babysitters. That's what you people are. You're not perpetuating any kind of intellectual curiosity out here. And if you folks don't believe me, why don't you go out right now, call just anybody under the age of 18, anybody who's graduated high school, ask them a few questions. Ask them a few questions, and you will just see the absolute personification of ignorance just oozing out of these people. It's a shame, folks. It's just absolute shame. And then we wonder why our children are so imbecilic. Yeah, then they wonder, well, why are our children so damn stupid? Well, it's these ridiculous bureaucrats that run and basically, oh my God! I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, I'm so flustered right now. This damn subject matter right here, next to the feminist movement, but this one right here. I mean, it really irks me, man. I mean, I know people that don't even have any children that go to school anymore, that are out here paying thousands upon thousands of dollars in property taxes for a bunch of brats to go to school, and they're not even learning anything. They're not learning a damn thing.
I mean, and you want to know why they're not learning anything? I'll tell you why, okay? I'll tell you why. Because the public education system isn't overseen by anybody. And if it is overseen by anybody, the public education system is being overseen by a bunch of bureaucrats. And they're being paid by the government, so they could care less. These people have no incentive to make sure that this public education system is ran at least decently. I was going to say ran well. I mean, you can't expect anything with government money to run well. I'll tell you that right now. But this public education system is a failure. It's an absolute failure. And it's because nobody that works in public education has a financial incentive, or any type of incentive that matter, to make sure that this is running well, running with any type of credence, or any type of legitimacy, any type of integrity. They could care less because they're going to get paid anyway. You know, the superintendent that gets paid about $500,000 a year just to sit on a board and, you know, to throw down a gavel every now and then, do you think they care about whether or not public education is being taught worth a damn? No, they don't care. Do you think these stupid teachers, these ridiculous, poor excuses for educators that unionize themselves, and they always say, hey, you know, it's always, watch, in another 3 or 4 years, we're going to hear this from these teachers again. And we heard it about 2 years ago. We're going to hear it again here in the near future. What they're going to do is they're going to go out with their stupid teachers union, go out and protest, say, hey, we want more money. We want more money because we deserve it. We're teaching your children. And you know what's going to happen? They're going to get it. Just like they got it the last time. Why are they going to get it? Because they pull on your sympathy strings. They say, oh, we need more teachers. We need more schools. We need more of this. We need more money so we can put it in our bureaucratic pockets and still produce a stupid student. That's what it is. That's what it is. And you see, I think that we need to scrap the whole damn thing altogether. That's right. And if you're a teacher, screw you, man. All right? Screw you, because you are doing nothing but infecting our children with ignorance. That's what you're doing. You know, these teachers out here, and I'm sorry, look, if you're a teacher that really cares about your job, which there aren't many, believe me, and I can say that with a confident, straight face, there are not that many teachers that really give two rats' asses if a kid graduates from high school or not, because there's no incentive for them to do so. I mean, they could care less. I mean, you don't get paid anymore for being a better teacher, and that's the problem. Maybe that's the problem, huh? You don't get paid anymore if you're a principal of a school that actually has, like, a group of excellent students. You don't get paid anymore, and maybe that's the problem. The problem is we need to privatize education, scrap education from the word go. That's what we need to do. Scrap it. We don't need this public education system anymore. We don't need all these tax-paying dollars, and this is coming out of your pockets, folks. All right, these ridiculous teachers' unions that are strong-arming the government into giving them more money because they think that they need to be paid more to make our children more ignorant. This is coming out of your pocket. You know? This is coming out of your pocket. And you see, nobody wants to talk about it because they're afraid that they're going to, you know, step on some teachers' feet or something. Oh, I better not talk about the teachers. Oh, I better not talk about the principals. You know what? Screw all those people, all right? And I don't care who hears me, all right? If you're around a teacher, you know, spit on their face for me because they have done absolutely nothing. Look at the ignorance that is being just run rampant in America. Just running rampant in America. It's ridiculous. Oh man, I'm just flustered because I just feel like I don't know. I mean, this is an issue that really frustrates me, folks. I mean, you know, people are just spending entirely too many tax dollars at this ridiculous concept called education. Public education, mind you. Okay?
And you know, every year it's the same garbage that we need more money, we need to build more schools, we need smaller classrooms, we need more teachers, we need computers, we need more books, we need this, we need that. And every time we throw money at the problem, what happens? Nothing. Nothing happens. And there's something needs to be done about it. I mean, we need to privatize education. I mean, I think that we definitely need to do something about this problem instead of paying all this ridiculous garbage. I mean, what's the use of spending $50,000 a teacher when they're not doing a damn thing? I mean, what's the purpose of paying a principal $150,000 a year? What's the purpose of that? I mean, there is no purpose. What's the purpose of paying a superintendent of a school $500,000 a year? And you know what, folks? I challenge you, and this is public record. So if you're curious about it, just call your nearest school district and just ask them. Just say, hey, look, I'd like to have a little rundown of what you people are doing with our money. You know, just give me a little rundown. And let me tell you, they have to give it to you. If they say no, well, you need to go to a superintendent. If they say no, go to the press. All right? Go to the press and ask them, let me see your expenditure report. And you're going to see that all these ridiculous dumbass teachers, all these administrators, these bureaucrats, you know what they do? They spend your money. They spend your money to go to Vegas. That's right. On a consistent basis. These teachers are out here spending taxpayers' dollars. These administrators are spending taxpayers' dollars on going trips to Vegas for what? Oh, a teachers' conference. Yeah, right. These people are out there gambling. These people are out there boozing it up. They're living it up on taxpayer money. It's ridiculous. And the more and more money we throw at the educational problem, does it get any better? No, it doesn't get any better. Our children are so stupid that they actually believe, the average high school graduate believes that the United States fought on the side of the Nazis during World War II against the communists. I mean, this is the type of ignorance that this public education system is perpetuating. And I'm supposed to respect teachers, you know? I'm supposed to respect teachers. Why don't you go down to your nearest school and talk to a few teachers? Huh? Why don't you go talk to a few teachers? How about that? Go talk to a few teachers and see how ignorant they are. It's ridiculous. Absolutely, utterly sick, man. And this is what we've got out here for and this is what we got out here for a public education system, you know? I'm telling you, I think we need to take out the teachers' unions. I think we need to take out the administration apparatus. I think we need to take out everybody. Everybody in the public education system. That'll make them shiver a little bit, huh? That'll make them pee in their little trousers a little bit, huh? I bet you if these teachers started figuring out that us American people don't want their services anymore, maybe they'll start treating us with a little bit more integrity instead of strong-arming us into giving them more money. I mean, that's funny. That is just absolutely funny to me. Anyway, folks, 646-652-4869 is the number to call. Let's privatize education, folks. All right, we'll save a lot of money, all right, and put these ridiculous teachers' unions, these administrators, these bureaucrats that don't care about your children. They don't care. I've talked to these people. They don't give a rat's ass whether your child is going to graduate, whether it doesn't graduate, whether they end up on the street flipping burgers. They don't care what happens to your child. You want to know why they don't care? Because they don't have an incentive to care. They're going to continue getting their pay over and over, year after year. They're going to continue to get paid regardless if your child gets an education or not. They don't care. I mean, just think about it. Let's say you're a superintendent. All right, just put yourself in that position. You're superintendent. You're getting paid $500,000 a year to sit your fat jelly ass on a chair so that you can lift a gavel every now and then and, you know, say yay or nay and all that garbage.
I mean, do you really care if do you really give two rats' asses if the kids make it through school and actually, perpetuate some sort of intellectual curiosity to themselves and to others? No, you don't give a damn. You don't give a damn. So you can sit here and spew off all the garbage you want to. Anyway, 646-652-4869. We're talking about the privatization of education. We're talking about scrapping the teachers' union. All right? We're talking about scrapping all these ridiculous administrators. We're talking about scrapping all this garbage. All right? We're talking about scrapping it all. And you know what we should do? We should just privatize it. That's right, privatize school. I ever thought about that? And people are going to say, "Well, wait a minute, Ghost. You're going to make, education. You're going to make educational elitist, or you're going to make an educational underclass. Some people are going to get the highest grade of education. Some people are going to get the lowest grade of education. Well, that's happening now. I mean, that's happening now under your public administration, your public education system. All right, I mean, that's happening now. I mean, why don't you go into an impoverished Mexican barrio or an African-American ghetto and look at those schools, and you compare them to the ritzy white, or whatever. I mean, just compare them to a rich part of town. And you're going to see a complete difference. And this is your public education dollars here. All right? This is your public education dollars. So I think we need to privatize education, and let me tell you why. Okay? Because when you privatize education, you're going to spawn a whole new industry, and I think this would help the economy as well. You're going to actually have entrepreneurs and people starting their own schools, and they're going to have to actually go and seek out students. They're going to have to convince parents that their school is the best school to send them. They're going to actually have to convince a parent and suggest to them that, look, this school is the best because of this, this, and that. Our schools are actually held accountable. We put our teachers through vigorous tests, re-education processes, that sort of thing. I mean, do you know that some imbecile that got a degree like 30 years ago in math, which is, math has evolved since then, they can continue to teach from that damn degree 30 years ago? How about the electronics people? The people that, get in electronics degrees, 30, 40 years ago, they're still able to teach on that same degree without any type of re-education, And this is serious, folks. There's no accountability when it comes to the teachers. And these teachers, what they do is they get, what do they call it? Tenure. And every year that they are a successful teacher, whatever the hell that means, they get more and more money added to their income for doing absolutely nothing. So I'm just simply stating, man, we need to go and we need to privatize education, okay? Because you see, right now there is no incentive. There's nobody looking over the education system that says, look, it better run right, it better run good, or else. Because there is no incentive. There is no incentive for the public education system to run correctly. That's my point, folks. If you have somebody who's actually backing up an educational institution, let's say there's an entrepreneur. If we privatize education, let's say there's an entrepreneur that invests in a school. Well, he has a financial incentive to make sure that all those teachers are teaching those children correctly. He has a financial incentive to make sure that his teachers aren't incompetent. He has a financial incentive to make sure that his administrators are actually doing their job. He has a financial incentive to do things. It's not like the public education system. The public education system could give two rats' asses if your kid's out in the street. They could care less. And that's why all you teachers that are out there, you get no respect from me, okay? I have no respect for teachers. As a matter of fact, I think it was, I'm not going to say who quoted it, but there was a quote recently that stated,
the modern day teacher, the reason people are more and more education degrees are being handed out like in an assembly line fashion. The reason this is happening is because the education system has become the bottom feeder of employment. I mean, just look at the amount of teachers that are out here doing their children. The amount of teachers that are the middle school teachers. I mean, it's just. Don't even get me started. Don't even get me started. Because it's sickening to me. It really is. Anyway, 646-652-4869. Give me a call if you have any type of discourse on this subject matter. We're talking about the privatization of education. We need to scrap this public education system, folks. It's draining too much money out of the tax system. I read recently that there was a man that won. He won his dream home off of one of these contests on the, I think it was on the Home Garden channel. And it was a 7,000 square foot half glass home. It was beautiful, right on the lake. But unfortunately, he had to give it up. He had to give it up. Now why did he give it up for? Because he couldn't pay the taxes on it. That's why. That's why he couldn't do it. He couldn't pay the taxes on it, so the man he had to sell it. He had to sell his dream home because he couldn't pay the taxes. Now, what taxes are he paying? Why is he even having to pay taxes on that? He's got to pay property taxes so that he can fund children to go to school that aren't learning anything. They aren't learning a damn thing. As a matter of fact, the only thing that public education is providing is a social environment to perpetuate deviant activity. And if you don't believe me, if you're any kind of a parent that sends your child to public school and you wonder why, hey, wait a minute, how come Bobby's coming home with black hair and eyeliner and, trench coats? It's the environmental influence at your school. Oh, hey, wait a minute. Why is Jennifer over here coming, with short skirts and going out with low cut? Hey, it's the education system. We need to stop it, folks. This is what's really screwing up our children out here. Public education is perpetuating a horrible mentality to our children. It's just horrible. And is there any incentive for anybody to rectify this situation? Is there any incentive? Absolutely not. There is no incentive. Because bureaucrats could care less if the machinery of the bureaucracy is going well. All they care about is if more coin is in their pocket. As a matter of fact, I live in Texas, and there is a school district in my vicinity, all right, that is actually, they're actually busing students that live right across the street from an elementary school. And when I mean right across the street, like 50 feet away, literally 75 feet away. They're within walking distance to an elementary school, but the school district is forcing these children to get on a bus, be bussed in about a half mile or a mile and a half on a busy interstate to another school. Now, why is that? I'll tell you why that is. Because some bureaucrat up there in the school board decided to build another school so they can put more government funding in that particular district and put more money in the superintendent's pocket. This is what I'm talking about. This gets me angry, man. It gets me angry because this is not only my money, this is your money, folks. This is your money that's being spent. Damn. Anyway, let me take a call before I, bust a head gasket. I believe this is the Poor People's Campaign. Is that right?
Yeah, how you doing, Ghost?
How you doing?
I'm doing fairly well. You got a good topic here. Most of these public schools do need to be closed down because some of these teachers do not care, but some do.
Well, yeah, no, I'm not saying that they all don't. And I usually always say things on a general statement, but that's only to bring highlight on the subject matter. And the subject matter at hand here is that the education system is warped. Now, I know that you're running the Poor People's Campaign in Chicago area, and you could probably agree with me. You can agree with me to that. If you go to the nice, prominent parts of Chicago, you're going to get some great schools with some great technology and great computers, great books, and everything's going to be fine and dandy. But if you go to the impoverished part of Chicago, you're going to get just garbage schools and things that are outdated.
You got it mixed up now because right behind the projects here in Chicago, right over there across the street from me, about 3 blocks over, you got the Ickies, and now they done built a $60 million school. And
now was that a privately funded operation there? Because that happened.
It's a public school.
But was there
tearing down all the projects? They tearing down all the projects, and they're getting ready to build, after they tear down all the projects, $400,000 and $500,000 homes around that school.
So kind of like
it's not going to be all black anymore.
So kind of like a gentrification type of.
Yeah, that's what they call it, gentrification.
Yeah.
When they're moving people out of poverty into poverty again. But this school got everything. I mean, it got plasma TVs, got computers, it even got a doctor's office.
I mean, don't you think that's unfair, sir?
Yeah,
I mean, that's unfair.
Because for one, we need these kind of schools in real impoverished communities, but we need better teaching teachers. We need teachers that really, really care and not about the paycheck. Because you can put a kid in a Catholic school, and my God, those schools, they do teach. Now, don't get me wrong. Those Catholic school kids, they learn real good, but they're perverts.
They're what?
Some kids be weird. They be weird, man.
Oh, well, you see, this is what I'm talking about, too. The only option for a private school in this day and age is something religiously motivated. And you see, they're trying to intertwine liberal education with religion, and I think that's what kind of, freaks out a couple of, I guess, students, I mean, that's my personal opinion. Now, look,
I'm got these doggone politics all intertwined and twisted all up with religion. You got these preachers out here with their candidates and got their congregation bagging their candidates. Where in the world do the preachers supposed to be in politics?
Well, I think that the preachers need to be preaching spirituality in the confines of their temples, of their churches, and to their congregations. They don't need to be in public life. As a matter of fact, it came out today that, Reverend Calvin Butts?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it came out that Hillary Clinton earmarked a bill for $1 million to go into that man's pocket. Now, why should that even? Why?
Yeah, well, that's what they do.
I mean, it's just ridiculous.
He's the only preacher that's getting $1 million goes.
Oh, believe me, hey.
That sold us out.
Believe me, I know it. I know it. And I disagree with it because, there should be a separate sphere of consciousness. This is America. You're supposed to, I understand I'm a Christian, but that's a separate sphere of consciousness from my social contract democracy that I currently live in today.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm...
they are the spiritual leaders of the community, so when any developers, any politicians come in the community, the first place they run is to the church.
Absolutely. And it's a shame that we need to just stop intertwining that with our politics. Like,
teachers need to be teaching me, because I had a brother, he's gone now, but I had a brother that grew up in grammar school, but he was a genius, and my son is the same way my brother was. He picks up them doggone books, and it just goes to his head like a sponge. And the teachers couldn't keep up with him. They couldn't keep up with my brother. When they got through with my brother graduated out of grammar school, top #1 of his class. He went to high school, graduated #1. They put him in the Jack magazine, the Ebony magazine, right here in Chicago. And when he went to college, #1. But he wanted to live. He thought that he was smart. He was smart enough to live the street life. And you only can live 2 lives, and you can't just take on one. And I used to always tell him that God gave him the gift to be smart and a genius, but he wanted to be out there in them streets, and that's what took him.
Now, you see, that comes back to my point about the social ramifications of public school. I mean, there is no incentive for the administrators to make a conducive social environment for learning. As a matter of fact, on the contrary, most people, when they get, or most children and teenage children, when they get these ideas to, I guess, emulate someone that they've seen at school who participates in mischievous activity.
My brother, this came out just hanging around in the community with his so-called friends, trying to. He got tired of being called a geek. He got tired of being called a geek, a nerd, because he was so smart. So he tried to fit himself in with his so-called friends, and that what brought him down.
No, I'm sorry to hear that.
That what killed him. You know, these kids, you got a lot of, but the teachers really, you can't put it all on the teachers, because really it's the teaching of the kids started at home with the parents.
I agree to that, but you see...
And these schools do pay, because I know when I was growing up in grammar school, when I was growing up in grammar school, they had school books there that my parents was using when they was in school.
And you see, that's the way the systems run. That's the way the systems run out here. The public education system is not public education. It still makes education. It still makes it.
I hate to say it, but they prejudice. Now, when my son grew up he grew up in Wisconsin. My son grew up in an all-white state. He was the first black kid in the school, and he was there at Kennedy from daycare all the way up to 5th grade. And every time they came to the class to ask the teacher which kid, because see up there in Wisconsin, they reward their students. The police would come to the school and ask my son's teacher, which student in your class is the smartest student in this class? And she always picked out my son.
Well, that's
and
great.
They always took him shopping. But
and
what
you know
I'm saying is, they got
that's great. That's great parenting, sir. That's great parenting on your behalf.
But see, the schools up there have everything in it. They started them out with computers. They got it all up there in Wisconsin. I try to tell our peoples up here in this community up here, y'all got to fight for y'all kids to have the same thing. That's all. The teacher told me when I brought my son up here to Chicago, she'd say, really, I don't want you to take him today because Chicago public schools stink. And they do. But he had a great start.
Well, that's great to hear. But, but it is a problem.
It's a problem. It's a big problem.
And if you go to impoverished parts of any community and go look at their schools, you can't compare them to schools that are in not impoverished parts of town. And you see, this combats anybody who states that privatizing education will make an elitist education system, because we already have an elitist education system. I mean, it's already putting poor students in an educational underclass. You notice that most of the people that get, and you can look at this in your own statistic, go to your nearest school district and they'll give you these statistics. How many students graduated from a school district from a poor part of their district and went to a college, paid for by a scholarship? And you compare that to how many students that went to an supposed affluent school in a better part of town, how many of them graduated with scholarships for college? And you're going to see a big discrepancy there.
And
so there is elitism.
Did you know that there's a lot of them that's out there really trying to make it, and when they get ready to go to college, 80,000, 90,000, 100,000, and man, they trying to figure out which way to get the money, and some of them turn to illegal activity just to make the money. Some of them go get 2 jobs, and then they got to go to school and hit the books. Why are they still raising college tuitions? Why?
Well, that's a whole other subject matter, but I'll tell you. Because, first of all, you've got the government funding college education. I mean, 45% of college education is funded by the government. So that means that there are already pre-purchased seats in the college education system. So that only leaves a little bit over 50% for the colleges to fend for a profit. So, I mean, because the colleges have to make a profit because they invest in these big, large departments, and this is all privatized. Unless they're a publicly funded college,
Most
now,
of
they privatize all these schools. What's going to make the change? What's going to be the big change with privatizing the schools?
No. I think that what we need to do you were speaking of college education. I think that maybe you just need to get the government out of college education altogether, and that would bring down the price of college education. Right now it's so high because everybody wants to go to school, and yet the government is already funding 45% of the people going to college. So that only leaves a little bit over 50% of those kids that are going to school that much room to make a profit. You know, it's like a man with 100 apples. Have I told you that story?
Yeah, but you know what they'll do, Goes? They'll spend $20,000 to $30,000 to $40,000 a year on an inmate.
Yeah, no, hey, yeah, and I had a show about that a couple of shows ago about the drug problem, and a lot of that has to do with the drug problem. I think that we got way too many people in prison for drug-related activities, and a lot of our money. And you're right. I mean, prison is a private industry, and the more people you put in prison is the more money that person, whoever has the prison, is going to have. 40,000 an inmate, you get 2,000 inmates in a prison. That's serious money.
That's right. You're keeping them for 30 years.
So, and this is what I'm talking about. I mean, don't you agree that a lot of those people, the reason they're in prison is because of a ridiculous public education system that induced a social atmosphere to perpetuate mischievous and illegal activities? I mean,
some
go
are
ahead.
in there because, they really, looked at that fast money that the government was putting out here on these streets, and some of them just had to go take care of their families, and, their daddies wasn't there. The mama was always there, so they tried to help mama. They wanted to be the man of the house to help their mama. And it ended up, some of them did do that, but ended up costing their freedom. But, again, with this privatization of public schools, what is it going to help these public school kids if they privatize these schools? Like in Chicago, we're getting ready to have 200 and some schools closed down for poor performance.
Well, I think that if we privatized education, all the money that was going to these ridiculous bureaucrats, the $500,000+ that go to the superintendents and the school board, I mean, these are $500,000 apiece. That school board members, the superintendents, I mean, that's a lot of money going out to them each year. You combine that with all the ridiculous teachers that have extorted the money out of the federal system, $50,000 a teacher, and you combine that with all the electricity, water, all the expenses with the schools itself, the construction of the school. I mean, that's serious public money. And if you were to cut the fat out of that, and basically cut the property taxes in half or maybe even 3/4, we could use that 3/4 tax cut on the property tax and pay for people that can't afford, that are at the poverty line, that can't afford to go to school, give them a stipend by the government. Instead of putting the money in the teachers' hands, which aren't teaching our children diddly squat and that aren't held accountable, why don't we just give the money to the parents so the parents can go to school after school after school to make sure that they can be proud of the school that they choose to send their children to. They're not strong-armed.
I got a cousin that's a teacher, and I got my son's auntie as a teacher. Now, my cousin, she lived way out in the suburbs in a predominantly all-white area, and she goes to an all-white school. And their kids out there at her school, their public schools out there are way, way, way more advanced than the Afro-American schools, public schools here in the city.
Yeah.
Way more advanced.
And you know what?
Public schools.
Yeah, well, I mean, and you know what that comes down to? It's the bureaucracy of the school district that allots the money to where they see fit. So obviously, all the
some blacks that's sitting up there on the school board right here in Chicago. We got a black president that sits on the school board and allocates the money.
That's what I'm saying.
I ain't saying that there's a white folks.
No. Hey, I'm not saying it's a racial thing either. I'm not saying it's a racial thing either. It's a bureaucracy thing. Yeah. And we need to stop the bureaucracy, and that's my point of this program. And you know what, Poor Peoples, I thank you for calling in, man. Okay. You're always a great guest. Yes. Anyway, like I stated, folks, I mean, we have to stop this public education system. It's a farce. Everybody knows it. These teachers, they're abusing the fact that they're bureaucrats. the bureaucrats that sit on the school boards, the superintendents, these people don't care if the public education system is working correctly because they have no financial incentive or any type of personal incentive to do so. They're going to continue getting their money regardless. They're going to continue getting their paycheck from the government. They have no incentive to make sure that they're teaching our children. That's my point. If we privatize education and make a whole industry of education, I mean, there's going to be somebody who invests in a school, an entrepreneur, a group of mothers, a group in a neighborhood. Anybody could invest in a school. And what's going to happen is there's going to be a financial incentive. There's going to be people that invest in this school to make sure that the teachers are teaching their children correctly. There's going to be an incentive to make sure that these administrators are making an environment at these schools that are properly conducive for education. That's what will happen. Not with these bureaucrats. And these idiots in these school districts are blowing our money on absolute garbage. And that's my point. And we have another caller here from the 267 area code. You're on the air.
Freddie, I agree with you. These people are wasting all our freaking money. There ain't nothing happening. The kids are getting dumber instead of smarter. They're feeding them all this garbage for breakfast. They should eat breakfast before they go to school. That's the way we used to do it. What do you think?
Exactly right. No, I think we need to just end public school altogether, sir. I mean, they're taking our tax-paying dollars and they're just burning it. We might as well throw our money in the fireplace. At least it'll keep us warm.
Damn right.
And that's my point on that.
Yeah.
You have any more opinions on the public education system, sir?
I wasn't educated in public school. I was educated in parochial schools, and I thank you for that. But man, even if it's gone so downhill since in the last 30, 40 years, it's ridiculous.
It has gone downhill because the people that run the bureaucracy understand that all they have to do is, yell a little bit and they'll get more money from the federal government and the state.
Well, that's got to be changed.
It does have to be changed. Go ahead, sir.
Ron Paul.
Ron Paul?
Yes.
Well, what does Ron Paul suggest?
He wants to go back to the grassroots. The kid's bad, send him the hell home. Don't put him in a special classroom. Send him home. Let his parents take care of it.
Well, that's easier said than done. There needs to be some sort of schooling. I mean, because, let's be honest, sir. Let's be honest. The parents nowadays are not taking responsibility for their children anyway. So what makes us think that they're going to take responsibility for their education? I mean, these parents don't even want to spend any time with their children nowadays. They're dumping them off on a boob tube or on an illegal alien child care provider or in front of a violent video game or an internet. I mean, these parents don't care about their children. So somebody's got to take care of them, and then that's why there needs to be an education system that instills some sort of integrity and intellectual curiosity in these students, and it's not happening at public schools. So I'm sorry, sir, you're cutting in and out. What'd you say?
The government's fault.
Yeah, I believe it. I mean, the government is just a ridiculous scheme of, at least the government education system is a ridiculous scheme of bureaucracy, and the only way it's going to, I guess you got disconnected. Well, like I was stating, the government is just a complete bureaucratic, government-funded, socialized piece of garbage, and it needs to be dissolute. It needs to be gone. Gone! And all you teachers that are out there saying, oh, you don't know what it's like to be a teacher, well, I guess it has something to do with just sitting there and throwing a couple of papers in their face and saying, hey, do this. That's what teachers are. I mean, I could do that. I mean, give me a break. I mean, there's no accountability for teachers anymore. You want to know why there's no accountability for teachers? Because nobody cares. They don't care if your children are educated. They don't give a damn. All they care about is that they're collecting their money, all right, and they're putting it in their pocket, and they're going to continue doing the bad job because you're going to let them. That's what they know. They know that you're going to let them continue doing the bad job because you're going to continue to pay the taxes. And we need to stop this, folks. And I urge everyone who's listening into this show, and I have a lot of people who listen in, and I thank you.
Go call your local superintendent, call your local school district, and have them held accountable. Ask for their expenditure reports and see how many trips all these teachers and all the administration take out to Vegas. This is not a joke. I beg you, please, call your local school district and demand an expenditure report and see how many times they take trips out of the city. Because it's rather frequent, folks. And they're doing it on your dime. Anyway, we got another call here from the, 972 area code. You're on the air.
Don't you just wish life was more like Futurama?
Futurama? No way. No way. And do you have a comment on the educational system, sir?
What can I say? I just wish we had better teachers.
Yeah, well,
better education.
Well, the bad part about it is that you got a lot of people that are claiming to be, when they come out of college, they want to be that great teacher. You got a lot of optimism. I talk to a lot of people in education that are students, and they have
hustlers. A lot. When you think about it, they're kind of like hustlers. That's the situation. They're all about what's going to get the paycheck higher, what's going to get the raise. And,
exactly. I mean, they don't care if your kid does anything in life. And this is what's unfortunate. They may go into the bureaucratic system thinking that they're going to make a change, but then when they realize, because it's basically once they get to meet their colleagues and they start understanding who's around them and that sort of thing, they're going to understand that no one really cares if anybody gets an education. All they care about is putting more money in their pocket.
Well,
that's what these bureaucrats do.
It just proves how corrupted the government can be. It'll pay to open up a school, like they'll build a school in a certain name. I'm sorry, I'm getting feedback right now. Hold up. They'll pay a certain amount of money to get to get a certain society, running with a nice school or in a nice town, something like that. And but they'll give them shitty teachers.
Well, I think it has a lot to do with just the bureaucracy itself. I mean, I don't think all teachers are shitty, so to speak. I just think that what happens is that it's just like with any environment. They go in with a lot of optimism. They go in, they want to make a change. They want to help students. And then when they get around their colleagues, and then when they get around the administration, and then they understand that these people don't care, and they've been sitting here for 30 years doing the same damn job, they start to get that same feeling as these people that have been doing it for so long, that, hey, who cares if you teach them or not? You're still going to get paid. That's all there is to it. It's just a job.
Yeah,
That's basically... Go ahead.
I guess you could say it's one of those things where, I'm getting paid whether they learn or not, so screw it.
Of course that's what it is. That's exactly what it is. I mean, that's at every level, at every single level you get it. At the teachers, at the administration, at the superintendents, it's the same garbage. They could care less. And that's my point. And they have no incentive to make it better. I mean, no one's over them saying, hey, you better make this better or else. Nobody's telling them that.
Well, see, because what it is they don't want to make it better. They want to have more dumb kids in the school so they can blame it on other little issues such as the streets, the society they live in. The how can I say, the corporations or stuff that the lack of corporations and businesses in the city. They want to blame it on little issues instead of just saying it's the schools.
It's the damn school. I mean, kids are in school 8 hours a day. I think they're shortening
the
that.
Whole day.
Yeah, I was going to say, they're trying to shorten that, by the way. But, they're trying to send these children 8 hours a day to school, and then they want to blame somebody else for their influence. You're the one teaching them.
Right.
You're the one, allowing, or her, I should, him or her, you're the one that's allowing the social...
You're right, because a lot of the teachers are, becoming more and more female. Not to say that there's no males, but a lot of teachers that, we get nowadays are, female. And
well, I have a whole personal view on that. I've personally thought, I don't want to relay that onto this show because it seems like every show I have we go back to this feminist question. But I believe that the feminist movement...
Feminism is how's it go? Death to feminism.
Yeah, that's right. That's right, death to feminism. Let me tell you, I think that the feminists and liberals have infiltrated the bureaucracy of school systems.
and they are perpetuating the mentality that we see today, which is, you know, a more feminized male.
Well, you want to hear a little theory of mine?
Go ahead.
Well, since of course you say that that of course the schools are, you know, based on liberalism and feminism, of course. I know if one way you could look at it is, I mean, the teachers, the reason they're probably not trying to make the kids better is because of the fact that they want to turn them all into hippies who like to smoke pot all day and like to think about world peace.
Well, I mean, that's a blunt way of saying it.
Yeah.
But all I'm simply stating is that, look, whatever the problem is, we just need to scrap it. We just need to scrap the education system altogether. I mean, you know, let's not worry about what the problem is. There is a problem. Obviously, children aren't learning.
Well, it's always been the liberals' way of thinking. They say that they state the problem. We all can agree that there is a problem, but what we can't agree on is who and what are we going to do about it.
Well, we need to scrap public education. That's what we need to do. I mean, First of all, that would lighten the burden on homeowners. I mean, you know, that's basically what's killing homeowners on, you know, this whole subprime mortgage crisis. I mean, yeah, I understand that, you know, that whole jive that happens with that, but a lot of it has to do with the amount of taxes that these people have to pay on top of the subprime the subprime mortgage that they took out to buy their home. And you see, if we cut the property taxes, I think that would release a lot of burden on the American homeowner, on top of which we'll be able to basically scrap all this money that's being blown away in public education, and there's a lot of expenses, everything from the school itself to the light to the water to the books to every single thing, the teachers, the superintendents, the custodians, the administrative, I mean, you can go on and on. I mean, we cut that fat out. And for people that can't afford school, we give them a little stipend, you know, to go out and go to school. I mean, that would save us a tremendous amount of money, and at the same time, it would cut government spending and get us on a right track to fiscal responsibility.
So you know the liberals, you know, it's all about blame Bush, blame the movement, the what is it, the No Child Left Behind movement or the bill. And it's all about, of course, blaming somebody else before, you know, doing the problem. And what it is they don't want to identify the problem for what it is. They want to let the kids just get stupider and, you know, don't want to fix anything about it. And that's just that's just a waste of time and money that they're giving to everybody because they're not trying to make anything better. They're just complaining.
Oh, of course, but that's the liberal for you. They're just going to continue complaining. I mean, that's just what they do. I mean, they're propaganda and they're agitators. They're propaganda machines and agitators. I mean, that's all you're going to get off of them. I mean, just look at what they're doing to each other here in the Democratic primary. I mean, just look at how they're dividing the country in race relations. I mean, they are sending us back 50 years in race relations just because these people and I don't want to put blame on anybody, but it's starting to be more on the side of the Clintons. You know, they just want to win the election, so they don't care about who.
See, but it's one of those things that the liberals like to do. It's just called manipulation. They want to find an issue that's really, at least that's not much of an issue right nowadays, and they want to exploit it and manipulate it, you know, to help their campaign and help their chances of getting into the White House just that much more, because they believe in manipulation on every issue. They believe in not solving the problem. They just believe in manipulating the problem.
Absolutely, and that's exactly what they've done thus far. And it's pretty sad that the Democrats have been able to get away with this nonsense. And but at the same time, I'm not very happy with the Republicans either. I mean, the Republicans have all turned into a bunch of social liberals. So it's basically, if you want to go to the voting booth this year when it comes to election time, what do you have? You got a liberal and a liberal. I mean, there's really no choice in my view.
Well, like I said, I'm more in line, of course, with Ron Paul's view on the issues of ending the Department of Education, because he knows, like we've discussed for the last couple of minutes, that that they're not trying to make us smarter, they're just trying to make us dumber. So what's the use of it?
Well, I mean, like I've stated prior, I like Ron Paul's ideology when it comes to certain domestic issues. That's why he's resonating with Republicans. But I completely disagree with his foreign policy, which basically means he has none. Because
right.
he wants
I know, of course, this isn't foreign policy isn't the issue. I could always discuss that with you, his foreign policy issue, because I know I heard you talking about that with Ready Works a little while ago. But like I said, as far as foreign policy goes, I'm not going to touch up too much on this issue. But as far as that goes, he's only asking for, how do I put this? He's only asking for non-interventionism and just in the end of globalism. He's asking for us to quit intervening in other people's business and quit finding reasons to be a part of, another country's problem, and quit trying to find another reason to go to war or try to how do I put this? How to dominate another country, because all that is doing is just making us look less like the country we were set out to be. We're supposed to be more of a defensive country. We're not supposed to be an offensive country. Excuse me, I can't talk. An offensive country.
Well, the thing about that is that what if he had done, let's say Ron Paul was president during the first Gulf War, and Saddam went into Kuwait, and we just didn't do anything about it. I mean, would that have been the right thing to do, honestly?
I mean, let me think. The only way I can put this is just you have to ask yourself: was the Gulf War a threat to the U.S. national security?
Well, it was a threat in the sense of our economic policies, obviously, because the price of oil would have went through
our
the
economic
roof.
Policies are threatened now, and look what's going on. So I don't know how to put it except for we have bad economic policies now, just like we did.
I agree. I agree that we spend way too much, but we need to cut some of these social entitlement programs. We need to cut public education. We need to cut a lot of the fat that's draining our economy.
And that's what I'm saying. That's what Ron Paul wants to do. Of course, in the sense, of course, there are going to be people that disagree with his movement and his stances on the issues. But the truth of it is, he's trying to fix our economic policies and stop letting us spend.
Yeah, but a thing that he said in the debates, and the moderator put it brilliantly. He said, "Look, you're for ending the Federal Reserve, ending the IRS, that sort of thing. How exactly are you going to do that? I mean, do you actually expect to do that?" And not so many words. He said, "Well, I don't really expect to do that." I mean, do you expect to do it or don't you expect to do it? Did you see the debates?
Yes, sir, I did.
Did you hear him when he said that? Did you hear him when he said that? He said, I don't really expect to do it, but.
Now you're talking about the MSNBC debates, right?
Yeah, last evening.
I really am not going to lie to you. I must have missed that when he said that. I'm not going to lie to you on that issue, but I can at least try to defend why he said it. I mean,
okay.
And I'm not going to I'm not going to lie to you about it. Of course, this is one guy versus a billion politicians that just do not share his ideological view and believe that he's just more liberal at heart than he is conservative about certain issues, which was this being one of them, But I think what it is he plans to do this, but I mean it's like what it is. We're getting too far ahead of ourselves. You see, he's not even we haven't even decided who the Republican nominee is. I would say that once that's been decided, and once that's all been said and done, then we should start focusing in on what kind of stuff he's going to do. You see, we don't. I mean, if you notice. He's the only one that gets those tough questions. I mean, not to say that the Republicans of the rest of the party don't get any kind of questions, relating to that. I'm just saying that he's the only one that gets those kind of tough questions that, I mean, when you ask him, you're just basically insulting him to his face by saying, well, you want to end the Federal Reserve, so how do you plan to do that? I mean...
Well, I mean, with all due respect, how is he going to do it?
It's not like he's supposed to be the second coming of Jesus, saying that I'm gonna say now thou shalt disappear. I mean, come on, it's just things don't get done that fast. I mean, you know better than I do that of course it can be done. We can end the Federal Reserve. He can't do it by himself. Maybe that's what he was implying. But that, like I said, it does just because he made. I mean, like I said, I can't define it. I can't truly define why he did say that. Excuse me. However, I can say that if he, the reason he probably said it was because he knows just as much as anyone else on that stage that was up there knows that we're getting too far ahead of ourselves. We don't know who the nominee is going to be. It's clearly undecided, and the stuff that he's doing, and the stuff that he is supporting, the stances he is taking, the arguments he has made, it's all, it's all just to help narrow it down. See, when it gets narrowed down to the top two, or better yet, when it gets narrowed down to him and he becomes the nominee, I would say then, then start asking the hard questions. And to be honest with you, I don't think he really meant that when he said it. He said, I'm probably not really going to do it. But what it is he's probably holding out on us.
The reason is because it's almost an economic crashing thing to do. I understand where he's coming from when it comes to cutting spending and that sort of thing, but the man is he's wanting us to commit economic suicide.
Not economic suicide. He's just wanting. Now, if you're saying economic suicide as we know it right now, yes, he is. And and based on what you have told me, we do need to commit economic suicide because the policies, the stances that we have right now in economics is killing in our economy. It's just killing us. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, it's killing us based on, first of all, we're at war. Okay, so we have to spend on war. That's just no doubt about it. But then you got these entitlement programs.
Well, I disagree there. We don't need to. That's probably the main killer right there. The fact that we're spending on a what I would consider unjustified war.
Unjustified in what sense?
Unjustified in the sense of interventionism. This was all based on interventionism of the Middle East at a prior time before 9/11, and what it was is, now of course this is just, I'm not saying that Ron Paul represents my view or any other Ron Paul supporter represents this view. This is just coming out of my mouth. I have the personal belief that, we pissed off another country, prior to 9/11, which is what sparked that off. And, of course, thus leading us to the Iraq War, which, of course, has already been stated by George Bush. He didn't state that it didn't need to happen, but he has stated that of course, which is true, that there are not WMDs in Iraq. So what was the point in going there? So, and on top of that, Saddam Hussein was not in Iraq. So what was the point in going there? We had no point in being in the Middle East, Iraq. Now, personally, as far as prior to 9/11, we had really no reason being in the Middle East, at all. What it was about was basically just what I had stated to you earlier. That
but you see, we didn't do anything in the Middle East, and I think that was the problem. We allowed a handful of. Hold on. I'll let you talk, man. Now, we had a handful of dictators in this part of the country, or this part of the world, that basically utilized Islamic radicalism to subjugate millions of people. Now, we didn't do anything about it. You look back during the Clinton administration, the man basically had a pacifist approach to terrorism and the Middle East. He didn't do anything. We got hit up with countless terrorist attacks, no military recourse whatsoever. Okay? On top of which, not only did he not do anything, he also tried to help the Muslims during the war with Serbia as a humanitarian war to stop Muslim and Islamic genocide. And even after all that, Osama bin Laden and other terrorist regimes in the Middle East had enough fervor to convince enough people to go out and lay their lives on the line for the sake of this Islamic radicalism. And that's for us not doing a damn thing. Okay?
Well, call me crazy, but I actually think it's not Islamic radicalism. I think it's more of just the Middle Easterns just fighting back. Come on. If we look at it, like I was stating, prior to 9/11, what was going on in the Middle East did involve a lot of America. Did involve a lot of U.S. soldiers, just trying to quote unquote spread democracy. Now, how they did, they're not speaking too much about. Now, you can of course research and try to look it up for yourself, of course, what they did prior to 9/11. But I can guarantee you that, like I said, because we were in the Middle East, and Iraq was one of the countries, I'm pretty sure of it, that we were in prior to 9/11.
Well, we were enforcing a no-fly zone because we were trying to protect the Kurds and the Kuwaitis. So
was a mutually. Which are you doing? Are you spreading democracy, or are you trying to help the country? Because it's obvious the way they're spreading democracy is not, they're not agreeing with it, or they wouldn't be at war.
What are you talking about, Iraq?
Yeah.
Well, Iraq,
at least completely, you could say, almost.
Well, the reason that we're having a hard time with democracy in Iraq is because these people are still theocratic. I mean, these people still believe in tribal warfare and versions of the Quran that are the right interpretation, ridiculous garbage like that.
Wait a minute. No, they don't believe in theocracy. Now, of course, I'll tell you this: a lot of their rules do come from the Quran and stuff like that. But they have what I'm pretty sure you know this. They have what they call Sharia law, which binds all of them together. As of course,
but that's my point. That's my point, is that you've got the Sharia law, and you got Sunnis, you got Kurds. I mean, this particular part of the world was cut up after the fall of the Ottoman Empire, after World War I. And after the fall of the Ottoman Empire, what happened was at this big, meeting in Versailles, they decided to cut up the Ottoman Empire into little bits and pieces. That's why you have all these countries that are now known as the Middle East, and they were given to tribal leaders that were negotiated as the leader of every little Islamic country that you have out here by Lawrence of Arabia. And what happened is that this part of the country, this Iraq, it was cut up in an area that separated three groups of tribes that hated each other. I mean, you've got the Sunnis that just hate the Shia, and then the Shia and the Sunnis hate the Kurds. And at the same time, the Kurds, they were promised a Kurdistan during the Treaty of Versailles, and they never got it. And I mean, all this is come into play now. What we're doing here now is trying to make some sort of secular democracy, separating their spheres of Islamic radicalism and political social order. And once we establish this,
the problem is kicking in is the fact, first off, that we intervened. And what was going on in their country, of course, and I'm going to tell you right now, not every country is going to get along because I'm sure you know this, because we don't live in world peace, so not every country is going to get along with each other. And on top of that, when we intervene, it's like we believe that, of course, the only way to settle this issue is to spread a political view that we ourselves are not even about. We ourselves were not even based on. We're up here.
What are we not based on?
You said we're trying to spread democracy in the Middle East, and I disagree with that completely, because democracy is not what this country is about.
Yeah, we are a democracy.
No, we are a republic. We are a constitutional republic.
No. You see, well, if you want to get politically theoretical, I'll be more than happy to school you on that. First of all, democracy. The definition of democracy is a land where people choose their leaders. Okay, that's a democracy. That's what we're in. Now, the social contract theory that constructs our government infrastructure, that is a republic. But inevitably, it's still a democracy, because democracy is defined by people who choose their leaders, and that's exactly what we're doing. Now, the republic aspect is based on the social contract theory, which is the Constitution, which we basically delved into several different philosophies to build our constitutional republic.
What I'm saying with your definition is that you say that if the people elect their leaders, you're right. But the people elect their leaders through voting. It doesn't state how they elect them. It states through, in a republic, you elect your leaders and your representatives through voting. Now, the reason what proves democracy wrong is they believe in, the people just saying, hey, I want this guy to represent me, or hey, no, but then someone jumps up and says, well, hey, no, I want this guy to represent me, and then it's like, how can I put it? It's so close to anarchism, that it's just it's really.
No, I think you've got a wrong definition of democracy, sir. With all due respect, democracy, the bottom line of democracy is a people being able to choose their leaders. Now, whether that's voting, whether that's raising your hands, whether that's saying yay or nay, that's just schematics. Now, whenever anybody brings up the fact that the United States is a republic, we're a republic based on the social contract theory that creates our whole government infrastructure.
And that's what I'm saying. I mean, we're a democracy when it comes to choosing our leaders, but as far as our government infrastructure is concerned, it's a republic. It's a social contract theory republic. We based our whole Constitution off of the Second Treatise of Government written by John Locke, and at the same time, we developed our government infrastructure from the political theorist Montesquieu. That's why we have a social contract when it comes to our democracy.
Well, I will. Well, may I state this real fast? Whether first off we are a republic or a democracy, I would think in the issue of the war in the Middle East or the war in Iraq, or whatever you want to call it. I think that, of course, that's irrelevant. I would say that just because whether you believe we are a democracy or not, doesn't mean that it's going to work in another country. It doesn't mean that
now
it's
you
going to work in another political
no. Hold on a second, man. I hate hearing that. I mean, you're gonna get this vein popping out of my head right now, because how are you? I mean, you're basically being either prejudiced or racist, and I don't think you're either or, sir. You sound very intelligent, but by saying that these people aren't ready to be able to choose their own leaders, I mean, how can you force somebody to choose their leaders?
No, I'm not saying that we're not allowing them to let them choose their own leaders. I'm saying that.
I mean, that's what you're saying, though, when you're saying that they're not ready.
No, I didn't say they weren't ready. I said that the political view that we are trying to give them, may not work. Because
we're not trying to give them anything. We're just trying to give them democracy. Democracy.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. We're trying to give them a political view that they may not support. Dictatorship is probably what rules the Middle East more than anything.
Absolutely not. I mean, that is just a logical fallacy, sir, with all due respect. Because, I mean, how can you equate a social experiment like dictatorship or communism or radical theocracy?
Authoritarianism too. I forgot to add.
Yeah, I mean, how can you equate these? And these are social experiments. Democracy's not a social experiment, man. I mean,
how can in a country that's never had it? That's what I'm saying.
Well, no, I mean, absolutely not. You're liberating them from being oppressed by one ruthless, tyrannical dictator. I mean, we're just going to say, look, you choose your leaders. Why does this man have to do it? You choose your leaders. But that's what we're getting. How can you force that? How can you force somebody to choose something?
Oh, I mean, we're not forcing. Or the funniest thing about it is that we feel the need to be the moderators in this fight and say that you should be able to choose your leader in this. But I mean, what the problem is why not let them figure that out for themselves? They're their own country. We shouldn't be in the Middle East.
Well, because we're fighting a war against we're fighting a war against ideology, sir. I mean, look, this goes back to the point I made earlier.
How do we fight a war against ideology by bringing our own ideology?
Well, first of all, what we're doing is we're fighting a theocratic ideology. I mean, these people actually believe that if they strap bombs to their chest and kill as many Westerners as possible, that's going to give them 72 virgins and religious significance in the afterlife. Now, the only way to combat that is to basically bring down the people that are subjugating them with this theocracy, bring down those people and make them understand that life is worth living. All right, I mean, you're not going to go and get 72 virgins if you blow yourself up. It's not going to happen. The only reason it's going to happen, and you think it's going to happen, is because this moron that's subjugating you is telling you to do so. And that's the point.
Them figure that out for themselves?
They're not going to figure it out because, just like you said, they're oppressed. You said it yourself. These people like dictatorships, that sort of thing. They don't like dictatorships.
Well, no,
I mean,
never said
nobody likes
dictatorships.
dictatorships.
I stated that that's what is in their country. I didn't say they like it. I mean, just like over here, we may have a democracy or we may have a republic, but that doesn't mean people like it. What I'm stating is that they have it; it's there. Yeah, now, whether or not that they are willing to liberate themselves and fight and fight out and revolt against that, it should be their job now, not ours.
Well, that's just like saying, let's go ahead and just leave the people that are being oppressed everywhere around the world. Let's just let them fight it off for themselves. When all they have is forks, spoons, and maybe some rocks, and
but you're not
you
catching
want them.
on. you keep making it sound as if we're the parents of every country in the world, and we're not.
Sir, we have a responsibility as a superpower to make sure that the international community is conducive to being able to perpetuate peace. I mean, I think that's a responsibility.
We're not the only superpower in the world.
Oh, well, who's another superpower? So are you going to say China?
I was going to say Russia, but I mean, China can work too.
Well, first of all, China, I mean, that's a whole completely other issue, and we could sit here for another hour and talk about it. I mean, do I agree that we have this lopsided trade agreement that we signed in 1973 that's basically perpetuated jobs being thrown out of the country? No, I don't agree with that. I think we need a president that goes back to the negotiating table and negotiates a better balance of trade. But that's a whole other issue. But as far as
I agree with that, but I mean,
but other superpowers, there are no other superpowers, sir. I mean, if there were, they'd be asserting their influence right now. I mean, just look at the empirical evidence.
Let me ask you this: if there were no other superpowers in the world, why is Russia choosing to defend Iran if we choose to come and invade Iran and try to start a war with them? Why is Russia stepping up against us?
Because they have economic interests in Iran. That's why. They could care less about the Iranian people.
I want you. I'm sure you know this. Are you aware of the fact that, of course, Russia has just twice or just as many nuclear warfare equipment, as we do, if not more?
Well, to be honest with you, they don't, because we've made sure that we've broken them down. I mean, there's a thing called the IAEA.
No, believe me, we'd be in World War III if we tried to break anything from them down. Believe me.
Well, read it for yourself. We've been doing it. We're the ones going in there making sure their nukes are safe so that these idiots in Russia don't sell them off to Al-Qaeda. So we've been doing it. We've been dismantling their nuclear weapons, so we know about all this garbage, sir. I mean, you can read about it. We've done it already. I mean, so I'm not worried about Russia. The only thing I'm worried about Russia about is that you've got Vladimir Putin trying to, kind of instill this ridiculous communist garbage again.
Well, you got to remember that Russia is a communist-type country, and...
Well, no, it actually was... It turned into a democracy when Boris Yeltsin took over the country, but now it's going back to a communist country. And I could give you... Let me tell you something about communism. Communism... It's just a ridiculous ideology. It's a failed ideology, and I don't think
it's to the choir over here.
Yeah, I was going to say
communism leads to anarchism, in my opinion, if you ask me.
And that's what the inevitable goal was, is according to Marx, that the communist regimes was going to be a transitional period into the withering away of government. But
right.
But like I'm stated, I mean, these people, what Putin is doing, he's utilizing communism to make himself a dictator, and that's what communism is for. It's just used by dictators to take over and suppress people with secularism.
Right, and like I said, like you and me have both stated, of course, if someone tried to take over our country with dictatorship or communism, I'm sure we would fight back as well. But I mean, but the point I'm trying to make with saying that is,
well, because we're free people. We're free people. We don't want anybody telling us what to do.
Right. We're free people too, but that's what I'm trying to say with the Middle East. They are free people, but let me tell you this though: they are free to a certain extent because they have both dictatorship and communism. They do not have the same true freedoms that we have. However, they do have the freedom to, of course, speak their mind, say what they want, but of course there's a price that comes for that.
Well,
if they say something that like a dictatorship or some kind of ruthless dictator disagrees with, or a communist disagrees with, then yeah, they'll probably have them beheaded and something like that, and probably have them cut up and
well, that's not freedom.
Something. Well, I mean, it's authoritarianism. I mean, it means they tell you have freedom when you really don't. But at the same time, what I'm saying about that is that the chances are there are a bunch of countries in the world. And what I'm saying is we can't, as one country, even if we are a superpower, or the biggest superpower, as one country, we can't go around policing the whole world saying, no, you're not allowed to do that. Here's democracy. No, you're not allowed to do that. Here's democracy. No, you're not allowed to do that. Here's democracy. I mean, come on. I mean, we're bound to find ourselves in a world war with a certain country that we do that with eventually if we don't learn to bring the troops home and understand that some of these governments, some of these countries have to learn to figure stuff out for themselves. We can't do everything. We are not gods.
We're gonna have to leave it at that, man, because I got about 10 minutes left, and I'm just gonna close the show here.
Hey, but before we leave it at that, I wanted to say, do you recognize my voice?
Yeah, I know who this is.
Who is this?
King Kong. It's good to hear you, my man.
Yeah.
I'm glad you called in, even though we disagree on the foreign policy issues. It's good to hear you give some insight. I'm going to actually have a show tomorrow and Sunday at 9 p.m. Central Time too.
I'm actually the thing about it is I'm kind of enjoying your show that's going on. I'm glad you do it Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But I mean, I got to work Saturdays and Sundays, so I can only catch it on Fridays. But
I appreciate you calling in. Otherwise, man.
Yeah, no problem, man.
All right, well, you have a good day.
Hey, don't be
good night
on Pal Talk now.
All right, definitely won't.
All right.
Take it easy.
See you.
All right, folks. That's just pretty much going to end the calls in here this evening because I just wanted to, recap what we've talked about. In the middle of the program, we were talking about the privatization of education and how the current system has completely failed us, and then we evolved into this conversation with Ron Paul, foreign policy, that sort of thing. But I just wanted to reinforce why we need to privatize education. The current education system is just producing an ill-qualified student. The average high school student nowadays, if you ask them what we did in World War II, well, what they'll tell you is that, well, I believe we fought on the side of the Nazis against the communists. I mean, you can read that. You can look it up. That was an actual quote from most of these high school students that are graduating from high school. This is public education, folks. And why, I mean, even though we're throwing more and more money at the problem, I mean, I think the average teacher now makes about 50 G's a year all across the United States. And yet we're putting more schools, we're buying better textbooks, we're putting technology in school, computers, more teachers, smaller classrooms, and yet we're still finding that it's hard to find a decent product in the United States as far as a student is concerned. It's because there's no incentive anywhere in the bureaucracy, from the superintendent to the administrators of the school to the teachers of the school. They don't care if your student ends up a valedictorian at Harvard, or they don't care if they're on Skid Row in a puddle of their own blood and pee, sipping on a cheap bottle of hooch. They don't care. And why don't they care? Because let me tell you why they don't care. Because nobody has any type of incentive to care. Because they're going to get their paychecks regardless. There's nobody over them saying, hey, look, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make sure you're doing your job. And if you don't do your job, you're fired. Nobody's going to tell them that. But if we privatize education, not only will we create a new market and a new industry for America, and a new opportunity for individuals to invest in schools. And these individuals who invest in schools, once we privatize education, whether it's an entrepreneur, whether it's a group of mothers that want to, teach a certain perspective or a certain version of liberal education, whether it's a neighborhood, it doesn't matter who it is. Whoever invests in a school has a financial incentive. They have a financial incentive to make sure that the teachers are fully competent. They have a financial incentive to make sure that those administrators are providing a conducive environment for these students to perpetuate intellectual curiosity. They have a financial incentive to make sure that this machinery of a school system actually works. And you see, these people that are in the public education system, these bureaucrats, they could care less because they're going to still get more money in their pocket. And if they feel like they want more money, if they feel like they're not getting paid enough, they're going to do like they did a couple of years ago? They're going to do like they did a couple of years ago. The teachers are going to go out to all these capitals of their states and march on the streets, threaten not to go to school, threaten that they're just not going to be at work. And what's going to happen? What's going to happen? I'll tell you what's going to happen. They're going to extort more money out of the government's pocket. And this is your money, folks. This is your money. Even if you don't have children, you're paying for it.
And I think that we need to privatize it, and that's the only way to go. Scrap it. Get rid of these ridiculous teachers' unions. Get rid of these administrators that are getting paid $150,000 a year to be a principal of a school that only perpetuates deviant activity, gang activity, drug-taking activity. Get rid of those people. Get rid of these ridiculous superintendents and these board members that do nothing but take trips to Vegas on our dime, that take, trips to these ridiculous so-called teachers' conventions so that they can go out and get drunk at night and, leave a $300 bar tab at the bar at the hotel they're staying at. This is what's happening. And that was the point this evening. And I thank everybody for tuning in, because we're getting great numbers, great conservative numbers. I got a lot of true conservatives. Anyway, let me get back and recap what I stated at the beginning of the show. Tom DeLay, one of the great conservative leaders of the conservative movement, was on MSNBC yesterday prior to the Republican debates. He was being asked for his commentary. And I'm glad he acknowledged what I've been acknowledging ever since I started this show. I have stated over and over again, and this is why a lot of Republicans are writing into me saying all kinds of nasty and filthy things. I mean, they're starting to become liberal agitators, because I've stated this and I will continue to state it. The conservative movement has been shut out of the Republican Party. You saw it when Duncan Hunter was basically subjugated, isolated away from any of the Republican debates. Look at the candidates that are around right now in the Republican Party, all unapologetic social liberals, with the exception of Mike Huckabee, and Mike Huckabee's an imbecile. Not only is he not very, smart, but he's liberal when it comes to his governing policies. He wants to free jailbirds, he wants more bureaucracy being instilled, he wants to spend government money for garbage. So the social conservative movement has been completely isolated from the Republican Party, and I've tried time and time again, I have tried to acknowledge this problem, and all I get is complete hate mail from Republicans. And I'm glad that Tom DeLay pointed this out yesterday evening and said that there is a split in the Republican Party, because there is, folks. There is. Social liberalism has basically hijacked the Republican Party. Nowhere on any of these candidates is the social conservative movement being embraced or being acknowledged. They're not being acknowledged. That's my point. And that's why I'm not voting for anybody coming election day. I'm not voting for anybody, because all these people are unapologetic social liberals. And that's my point. Anyway, folks, I'm going to have a show tomorrow. I don't know exactly what the topic's going to be. It's going to be the same place, same time, 9 p.m. Central Time. I finally got a blog. If anybody really cares to check it out, it's conservativeghost.blogspot.com. Once again, that's Conservative Ghost, no space, no underscores, just one word, conservativeghost.blogspot.com. I finally submitted to this blogosphere stuff because it's obvious that it works. Because I have literally chastised all these supposed conservatives, these people that are utilizing the conservative label, and yet they're embracing like abortion. They're embracing like perverted lifestyles. They're embracing this ridiculous phenomenon of feminism and this sort of thing. These are the people I'm talking about, and these people have big blogs. People that are calling themselves, and I hate to keep calling his name out, but every time I hear anything about Republicans or conservatism on BTR, this imbecile Ed Morrissey, his name keeps coming up, and this man goes against the grain of what the conservative movement was all about. And that's why I'm calling him out. He's a fake conservative, and everybody who's conservative that listens to me should tell that man and everybody else who tries to disguise themselves as a conservative, you're not a conservative. You hijacked the conservative label, and I don't appreciate it. I do not appreciate it. And that's the bottom line, folks. Our party
The Republican Party has been hijacked by a bunch of social liberals, and that's why I'm staying home. That's why I'm staying home on Election Day. Anyway, folks, it's been fun. Tomorrow I'm going to have a completely new show, 9 p.m. Central Time. I'm going to have one Sunday. Every Friday and Saturday and Sunday, you're going to hear me right here on BTR and on a variety of different pages across the Internet. 9 p.m. Central Time, folks, is when you can get at me. And I appreciate everyone out there listening in. I appreciate the conservative base that listens to me on a consistent basis. Without you folks, I wouldn't come up here every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Because all I would have is a bunch of liberal, long-hair, bedwetting hippies just agitating in my chat room, or I'd have a bunch of so-called wannabe conservatives, I call them Trojan horses. You'll have them in here spewing off a bunch of nonsense also. So anyway, get back to me, folks. conservativeghost.blogspot.com, and get back to me on MySpace too, man. MySpace.com/ghostpolitics, all one word. Get back to me, folks. We need the conservative movement to come back into power, and I won't rest until it does. Thank you all. God bless the conservatives. God bless America. Long live the conservative movement, and death to feminism.
Blog Talk Radio.